Hey, I'm Jay Bentroth from License to Distill, and welcome to Bartenders Meet Beekeepers. We're gonna meet some fascinating beekeepers from all over the country. We're gonna introduce them to some of our favorite pro bartenders. You're at a grocery store and you're going down the honey aisle.
Yep.
And you see someone reach for like those plastic brown bears full of honey from like the mass producer. Do you feel the same way a bartender feels when someone reaches for a White Claw?
You don't have to be a bartender to roll your eyes when people reach for a White Claw.
We're gonna be hanging out with bees, learning from beekeepers, and harvesting fresh honey that we're gonna end up using in our cocktails.
Our connection to bartenders is everything. You know, our mission depends on the vibrancy of cocktail culture, the conversations at bars and restaurants all around the country. So when bartenders share our story, it instantly goes all the way back. It ripples back to the hive.
I feel like one with the bees.
Today we're here in San Francisco, California with our beekeeper, Peter Wohlers. He's about to introduce us to his hive and show us the honey.
I'm Peter Wohlers. I'm from San Francisco. Here in San Francisco, my backyard. This is one of my hives. And I keep bees. Oh, I've been a bunch of things. I've been, most recently I was in tech. Before that I actually was a piece goods buyer for a garment manufacturer. And before that I was a customs broker.
So what got you started beekeeping?
Some guy at a work lunch and we were talking about hobbies and he talked about beekeeping and I said, oh, beekeeping, that's really cool. You know, I might have room in my backyard for a hive. And he's like, I'm looking for a place to put a hive. And the guy put the hive here, but I didn't really realize I was going to become the beekeeper. And so basically he sort of like just sprung that on me with the suit and the gloves and everything, and here's your gear. And I had a little freak out. But you know, he taught me and helped me like in the first few like hive inspections, and then I kind of realized that I didn't want him to have any part of my beehive.
It seems very personal, like it's your hive. You don't want him having any involvement in your hive.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, you know? And so I just wrote him a check for all the equipment that he put in my yard and said, thank you, thanks, but no thanks.
We're very connected to a network of incredible beekeepers that are working really hard.
Let the dogs out in the morning and all of a sudden what do? And I go over and I check and see how the bees are doing, seeing if they're all okay. And you know, it's a communal organism. It's a feral communal organism. And it's like, you kind of have this relationship to it. You don't really have control over it. They do what they want. You try and influence it, but it's been a tremendous learning process, yeah.
We've invited 3 local bartenders to Peter's backyard, and they're gonna learn about bees, beekeeping, harvesting honey, and ultimately, we're gonna make some cocktails. We're inviting bartenders over. We're gonna be invading your house here in a little bit and checking out the beehive. What's your connection to cocktails? And do you enjoy cocktails?
Yes, I enjoy cocktails. I also worked in restaurants. You know, I'm always interested in the craft of cooking. I mean, ultimately it's cooking, and I like to cook, and I like to drink, so making cocktails all kind of falls within it. You know, and I've got tons of honey, so I make cocktails with honey whenever I can.
I would just wear this jacket. Like, tell me this isn't a good look. Hey everybody, I'm Gianna Burns. I'm a bartender here in the Bay Area, and I am the bar lead over at Liliana.
Scale of 1 to 10, what's your fear level of bees?
Like a 2 or a 3.
You're not afraid of them at all?
I don't know, they don't seem that scary.
Wait, does this have armholes in it? Sorry, California public school education over here. Hi, how's it going? My name is Suzu. I am from San Francisco, and I'm the general manager of Wildhawk.
What's your fear level of bees?
Probably like a 6 or 7.
So you walk outside the door and there's a swarm of bees. What's the first thing you're gonna do?
If there's a swarm of bees, I'm gonna run away.
Hey everyone, my name is Natalie Lichtman. I live in San Francisco and I'm the bar lead at Pabu, Izakaya.
Scale of 1 to 10, fear factor of bees?
Fear factor of bees, I'd say like a 5. Super neutral ground, not really sure about how this is gonna go.
And this is all honey frames. This is actually left over from the winter. And you can tell that this is so it's honey, and what happens is that the bees will collect all the nectar, and they go through a process of dehydrating the nectar until it gets to be about 19% moisture. So this is also all ripe honey. So I mean, hold this. You feel how heavy that is?
Yeah, that's really heavy.
And this is what it'll look like. And so I've actually got to go through and do a harvest. I got to do a harvest because I'm starting to get a bunch of stuff. And so here, let's look at this one. This one's got some uncapped honey, and you can sort of see here. So these cells here are open, right? Mm-hmm. And when they make the comb, it's all going to be open, and they use the exact same comb for both brood and for storing of honey. And when they cap it off, what happens is it's this white skin, which is actually just beeswax, and the white beeswax skin seals it so it doesn't lose any more moisture. So it stays at that 19% approximate hydration level, which is why honey doesn't go bad. And one of the things that the beekeepers will try and do is when they harvest honey, they pull it out, they do what they call capping, and they have basically it's like a bread knife, and you kind of just shave to shave the skin off of shave the skin off of the cells, and then you put it in a centrifuge and it spins around and it spins all the honey out. I think my favorite thing is actually watching a hive grow in strength. That there's a seasonality of how a hive sort of fluctuates in its population. Like having a hive make it through winter and come out really strong in the spring is just magical. It's always really great when you see like those first, early warm spring days and the bees are just pouring out, and it's like, yeah.
We're here at Wildhawk, the Mission District in San Francisco, and all three of our bartenders are here. Each of them are gonna make us 2 cocktails. One with wild honey from right here in San Francisco. The other is gonna have honey harvested right from Peter's backyard.
So we're using a bit of Barr Hill gin, some Saint Germain, a house-made lemon liqueur as our acid, and then a fermented wild jasmine honey.
So my cocktail is kind of like a gin old-fashioned variation. So it's gonna be mostly of the Barr Hill gin with a little bit of the Barr Hill Tomcat gin. I have created a pandan honey syrup. Then there's a few dashes of some black sesame tincture and orange bitters. The garnish I've got little pandan leaves for some visuals, for some aromatics, and then on top of my ice cube, a little honeycomb sprinkled with a little black sesame and salt.
We hear you are well known in this area for having a hidden talent with your earrings. Do you want to demonstrate this?
I know that I'm gonna wear these hoops pretty much every day of my life, but the changing factor is what bottles want to work with me on this. So Barr Hill sometimes fits through these hoops. I don't know, a lot of people doubt me. And it does.
Yes.
The cheapest bar trick, the cheapest party trick I've ever had in my life. So this cocktail is my take on a martini. I took some rose geraniums that are grown locally and I made a syrup with that and some honey. So just Barr Hill gin, some honey rose geranium syrup, 2 different vermouths, dry and blanc, and nasturtium as the garnish.
brought you out of your backyard.
Out of my backyard.
To the bar.
Yep.
And Barr Hill Gin and your honey's been the star of the show.
It's been fun, yeah.
What's your take on some of the cocktails you tried today?
I actually love it. I'm usually always kind of happy to try honey cocktails just because, well, I have like this vested interest. I like to see what people do with it. And it's like, what can I take and make, what can I learn from it and make it home? Because, well, I like to make cocktails with honey at home.
When we say our mission is to connect agriculture to cocktail culture, we realize that there's probably nothing more important than connecting beekeepers to bartenders.
Local Peter's honey. Peter's local honey. I'll just say Peter's honey, it's fine. So I made a play on a bumblebee cocktail using the Barr Hill Tomcat gin, a little bit of Jamaican rum, lime juice, Peter's honey, and egg white.
Terroir is a big buzzword in spirits.
Yeah.
And it is in honey as well.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, you speak highly about like the San Francisco honey versus other honey.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's I think it's different in a couple of ways. I mean, when people talk about San Francisco honey, basically if you're getting San Francisco honey, you're getting something out of somebody's backyard. So you're not just talking about the fact that it's very, very local, and you're not dealing with bees that are fed on like monocrops and things like that. They're not, these aren't the almond harvest honey crop or anything like that. And what you're getting is you're getting everybody's ceanothus, you're getting their plum blossoms, you're getting their apricots, you're getting fennel. So you're getting all of these things that are really kind of prolific in San Francisco gardens.
The work of the bees is it's an incredible exploration of terroir. When we're working with beekeepers, we're working with only beekeepers in a 250-mile radius of this distillery. So naturally, those bees are traveling from their hive, out and around the hive. So they're collecting from all sorts of, flowers and fruit orchards and anywhere where they can collect nectar. They're literally scraping the earth of terroir. They're grabbing the botanicals, the nectars, the pollens, all the flavors of the very land around that hive.
And that gives this really kind of like this rich and extremely varied sort of like flavor palette. But beyond that, it's also that because it's also small producers, it's individuals, you're dealing with a very, it's not diluted. I always talk about like, if you ever have like leftover painting or something like that and painting the house and you dump all the paint in the sink and no matter what the colors are, it all turns into brown. And so the larger the producers you go, basically what you're seeing is the amalgamation of all of these sort of like really, really special sorts of honeys and you kind of like dump it into a big pond and it kind of muddies all the individual flavors and the nuance that you might get out of it. A good example is they talk about like the Manuka honey industry in New Zealand. They produce about 1,500 metric tons a year, but they sell about 7,500 metric tons a year. So you start to do the math on that and you realize that a lot of the times what you're getting might not actually be honey. I always kind of like laugh at like the comb honey that you see in stores because it's so outrageously expensive. But if you think about it, that's like the most pure manifestation of like a pure terroir of an origin of honey. It's what the bees were feeding on that week when they made it.
All right, so this is my take on a bee's knees called the Birds and the Bees. We're using Barr Hill gin, of course, a little bit of Peter's honey, some single malt scotch, a little lemon and orange bitters, and I hope you all enjoy. Cheers.
What was the the main question that you had for us when
I was kind of wondering why bartenders always make a honey syrup rather than using honey. And
why did I dilute the honey, Peter? Well, I guess what I can say first is that I don't see it as diluting, because usually when you dilute something, you're taking away from it. But just like you would add water to any other spirits or other flavors, it just changes it and kind of expands it. So it can do that, especially because his honey is really complex. You definitely get a sense of the terroir of San Francisco. So we're kind of just lengthening it. We didn't do a ton of water. You'll know this if you're behind the bar, but when you add water to honey or any dense sugar, it makes it malleable. So if I was shaking this on its own, it'd be stuck in my tin, frozen, and not in this cocktail. So this is a take on one of my favorite cocktails that uses honey as a modifier. It's called the Brown Derby. This one, instead of doing bourbon, I used Tomcat from Barr Hill, so a little bit of age on it. I think it kind of mimics a bourbon flavor, and it's a little bit lighter. Definitely highlights the honey from Peter's honey that we used in this cocktail.
what's the one takeaway that you can apply at home?
That I can add water to honey.
You make a cocktail.
Are we ready for a cocktail? I make drinks.
Takeaways from the day?
It was so much fun.
I've been interested in beekeeping a little bit. I follow a beekeeper online, so like actually getting to come here and experience this with like lovely people and good friends and good cocktails has been it's been a really special day.
Appreciated that there's this huge connection between just makers. So obviously I was with my peers and we made cocktails, and the bees are makers, and it was really cool seeing them just kind of, I don't want to say mindlessly work, but the way they were all on top of each other, they all had this really cool just like momentum and this sense of purpose. And then we got to hang out with Peter, and he's a maker of all this incredible honey and cocktails casually. So I just thought it was cool. It was a really fun day to kind of see everything come together in a place like San Francisco where we're already a melting pot of people and careers and products. So I'm really, really appreciative.
It's so easy to think about, the lineage of the food on your plate. We're so, as humans and as Americans, we're so connected to, farming as it relates to food, but, farming is every part of food and drink. And when we, order a plate for dinner or we cook food for our friends, we're thinking about where do these materials come from? Where do these, crops, where were they harvested? How were they harvested? It's crucial that when we order that drink, we're thinking about the same thing. We're asking the same question. We're engaging with bartenders saying, how was this spirit made? And, did the production of this spirit, support the people around the community that makes this, or was it just made in a big factory?
What's your fear level of bees?
Mine was a 5. I was just neutral ground. I've never thought about it too much. I think bees are cute, not really scary. I definitely wouldn't have wanted to get my face in there without the veil. So that maybe says something, but yeah, I'd say that now it's like a level 1.
I started at a 6. I would say it's like at like a 3 now.
Well, I went from a 3 to let's say 0, so. I feel like 1 with the bees.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on our Bartenders Meet Beekeepers. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss our next episode. And don't forget, what's a bartender without bees? Just a pirate serving drinks. An bartender.